Howdy, Rita.
Well, hello, CW. How are you from 6 feet over there?
We are 6 feet apart, and you can probably tell we have our little... I have my N95 on.
Yeah, I have one of those at home, but...
You have a... Well, you have another one, and then you have this fancy...
No, it's not fancy. It's a Lone Ranger.
From
Disney's
the Lone Ranger movie. I bet they're still sitting on a few of those bandanas.
It'd be nice. They should probably sell them. I think rock bands should put those back up on their sites, man. Bandanas, hot items.
Yeah, it's just that they can't get them made because nobody...
Exactly.
Well, China's probably up and making things now.
Great. Thank
So
you, China.
welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll Confessional. We are here in the midst of the coronavirus situation.
The global pandemic.
Getting together, holding our breaths while we talk with each other, right?
Hi there, everybody. How y'all doing?
Hi.
I miss talking with people. I mean, you can talk with them on the phone,
but
Facebook,
in person's always
like,
nicer.
Oh, there's humans out there.
I know. We're going to be so distant by the time this thing's over. Like, no one's going to want to look at each other in the eyes if we walk down the street. Kind of like it is now.
Yeah,
kind of like
wrong.
It was before.
But see, I'm the type that always go out of my way to say hello to people.
Right.
You know, and
Who
it's
cares?
just like,
yeah.
I'm not going to spray the virus I don't have on you. Of course, I don't know if I don't have it because nobody can get a test.
Well, that's what makes it so exciting.
But no, we're good. We hope that you're good. We hope that you and your families are good. And the people with kids, my God, I couldn't imagine having like young kids right now trying to keep them entertained for all that time.
I bless you for being able to have children because I didn't have kids, so.
Well, neither did I, but
what happened to yours?
I don't have any kids.
Oh, right.
I have fur children. I have lots of, nieces and nephews and godchildren.
Right. Those are the kind you borrow, but you can always return them.
And you've got godchildren too, so.
Yeah, so.
Good God almighty.
So who's up on this show, Reese?
One of the nicest guys. I adore this guy, not only because he's super nice, but he's super talented. His name is Gregg Bissonette, one of the most amazing drummers in the world. He
invited us up to his home, and we spent a nice little hour with him. He was very kind and spent a lot of time and has some great, amazing stories, so we're going to get to that in a second. But first, of course, those of you that listen on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, we ask that you please, please, please subscribe to us, rate us, and write a review. And we've had a lot of reviews lately, so thank you, everybody, for that. Every review helps us move up to the top of the rock podcast charts. Plus, our ego is stroked, of course, by all the good ones. We love reading about ourselves because we're so... Narcissistic?
No, we're not.
Yeah.
Actually, we're the furthest thing from narcissistic people.
We always read them and we pick a nice one to share. So this show, we are going to share one from Chicago Denise.
Yay, Chicago Denise!
She says, I am so grateful for this podcast. I miss hearing true rock radio and hearing the DJs talking to us or interviewing rockers. This podcast is full of interesting stories and confessions. It keeps me company as I race through my day. I'm so grateful to hear lovely Rita's voice.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Maybe you should be doing this solo, I think is what
I don't
Chicago
think so.
Denise is saying.
I don't think she's saying that at all.
Okay.
Big distancing hugs to Chicago Denise, everybody, and our new Patreon supporters, Patty Cervantes.
Thank you so much, Patty.
Patty. And Melissa Rosette. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa, so much.
We thank you and our other rock stars, roadies, groupies, all for your support. This month you are helping with our website domain fees.
And we know times are hard right now, but if you can spare as little as $1 a month, please make a pledge on Patreon to be one of the supporters to this podcast. Believe it or not, we have bills and they aren't small. So with your help, you'll keep this podcast alive and kicking.
This episode, we are speaking with one of the most amazing drummers in the world. How amazing?
How amazing is he?
Well, he's so amazing, CW, that when Ringo Starr hires you to drum for his all-star band, you must be pretty gosh darn good.
I would think, because Ringo hasn't called me.
And Ringo would never call you, sorry. Gregg the Biss Bissonette speaks with us about not only playing with Ringo, but for many years in touring and drumming for the David Lee Roth Band. He also played with ELO during the Zoom tour in 2001. Gregg tells us the story how his dad took his entire family to see the Beatles in concert.
How cool is that?
And this line is for you.
Also, Gregg's alter ego, Skippy Skuffelton, Wait, I got to say that. I got to do it again.
You're spitting all over yourself.
I'm spitting inside my mask, first off. Second off, I keep fogging up my glasses, so then I can't read the rest of it. Also, Gregg talks about his alter ego, Skippy Skuffelton, and how he joined Spinal Tap. So this is a great, fantastic episode.
And one of the most genuine people that you will ever meet.
If you get to meet him. But at least you get to listen to.
Yeah.
So enjoy this episode with Gregg Bissonette. Say hello, Reitz.
Hello.
Don't meow like a cat.
Reese? Is that a nickname?
Reitz.
Reitz.
Reitz? Why
Yeah.
don't I know that?
That's
Reitz.
Mark and Brian used to call me that.
Did they really?
Yeah, Reitz.
Oh,
Hey, Reitz.
man.
Yeah.
You hung out with them a lot, too.
I know them really well. I used to play drums on their show all the time.
That's right.
And we would travel around in a car and knock on people's doors, and I'd have the drum.
Oh,
and,
God, we got to talk about
and
some
then
of
they'd
that.
play drums with me. They both kind of played drums.
Yeah.
Reitz.
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 All right, Reitz.
Hooty hoo, Reitz.
Oh, God, I haven't heard that in a while.
Hoo-doo-hoo, Gregg.
Hooty hoo, Reitz. How are you?
I'm doing really good. It's awesome to see you.
Man, it is awesome to see you, and it's awesome to see you, CW.
Thank you, Gregg.
W. I went to college in Texas, and everybody said W.
W.
CW.
No, that's what people call me.
C-Dub.
C-Dub. W, I don't go
Okay.
that much, but
C-Dub and
even
Reitz.
Dub.
Dub.
Sure.
Dub and Reitz.
Dub.
Dub.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe I want to go with our Dub.
Our Dub.
Hey, don't be stealing my dubs.
Yeah.
So,
I'm the dub master.
what's your nickname?
My nickname is Biss.
Biss. Okay.
Oh.
That's what
Bissonette.
the Ringo Band all kind of has started calling me. Steve Lukather started the Biss thing, I think.
Wow.
And now Dave Hart, one of the guys, and he's our tour producer, he calls me Biss. Wayne LeBeau, our tour manager, he calls me Biss.
What about the Biss?
The Biss.
Because that sounds
Biss.
even more
Like,
powerful.
yeah, that sounds like
Can I
the
get that in
boss.
writing? I
Yes.
The
We will
Biss.
print that out for you.
love it. Da-da-da-da.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, you'd mentioned the name of Steve Lukather, and we had somebody who mentioned Steve in their opening confession. That was Scott Page.
Yeah, I love Scotty.
He's a great guy. So we usually start off the show with saying, is there anything you'd like to confess?
Confess. Boy, I'd like to confess that right now in my life, I am the happiest I think I've ever been. I've always been happy. I get to play the drums for a living. Gosh, what could be more fun than that? But my son Noah, my daughter Mary, Noah's 21, Mary's 19. They're in college, but they live at home with me. And I'm playing drums with Ringo since 2003, in Ringo and the Roundheads 2008. Since 2008 in Ringo's All-Star Band. And I get to just, for me, it's God, my kids, my family, my friends, the drums, and Reitz, I'm sorry to say the Dodgers. I know you're an Angels fan.
You gave us Jock Peterson, so I'm happy.
I can't believe we lost Jock. I love that guy.
I know, he's great. And,
Home
his
run
son
derby.
is on the spectrum. So Albert Pujols does, has a daughter on the spectrum and does so many different things. So
Champ.
it's going to be,
His son,
a
Champ.
great, association down
And
there.
Jock is such a good
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
And what he does for his older brother, Champ?
I'm not sure if
I
it's
think he
older or
might be
younger.
older, right?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if he's
Yeah.
older or younger, but he's always at the games. He was at Home Run Derby. And so the fact that you're friends with Mike Scioscia, I mean, I'm a big Angels fan too.
He's always said really nice things about you. I try to correct him, but
Well,
are we
guess
talking
what?
about the same guy?
Guess what, Reitz? I've been playing double drums with Mike, and he is actually very coordinated, and he can play. He doesn't want to get into it because he goes, if I do anything, I want to do it full steam ahead, and
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it and having a drum set in the house.
Oh,
He said
my
his wife
God.
would kill him.
Oh, yeah.
But guess what his favorite song is of all time that he wanted to jam on? You'll never guess.
Is it a rock
the
song?
boat, don't rock the boat, baby.
baby.
Would you have ever guessed that?
No.
No.
And he can play it. He can play it.
That's pretty funny. And he's doing drums. That's good. He'd make an excellent drummer.
Yeah.
He's an excellent coach. Just a great human being.
Great human being.
But to your confession, so you just, you come off as the person that when you watch you on stage or whatever, but even just sitting down next to you, you're blessed, you're grateful, you're appreciative. But when you play drums, you can tell that you really love playing drums.
Thank you, Rita. I do. You know, my dad was a drummer. My mom played jazz vibes in his jazz band back in Detroit. My brother Matt, you know, he's my favorite bass player, and we were together with Maynard Ferguson's band and David Lee Roth and Gino Vanelli and Ringo, and now he's, for the last 8 years, Elton John's bass player. My sister Kathy, super musical too, played violin. She, as you know, worked at Album Network and AEG Live. We're a super musical family. Both my kids play drums, piano, sing. My nephews both play drums. Matt's kids. His wife's a singer. They met at Disneyland, where the stage comes up by Space Mountain. They were in that band, you know. And their boys both play drums. And there's their youngest son, Josh. He's 23. He's just been drafted to the Pittsburgh Pirates, second base.
Is that right? Oh my God.
So Josh Bissonette on Pittsburgh Pirates. But we have a super musical family, and I just love playing drums. And when I was a kid, my parents knew what Beatle fans we were. And my dad was playing at a wedding in Detroit, and he came out, and there were all these thousands of girls screaming in the lobby. And he said, "What's going on? The Beatles are staying upstairs. The Beatles. My kids love the Beatles. My wife and I love the Beatles." And he asks the food and beverage manager, "Any chance of getting 2 tickets, or maybe, how about 6 tickets to see the show tomorrow?" And the guy says, "Bud, are you out of your mind? It's the Beatles. They're playing at Olympia Hockey Arena, where the Red Wings play. It's been sold out for 6 months. But I like you. Come back after your gig in the ballroom at 1. Come into the bar. I'll see what I can do." My dad goes back in the bar 1 a.m, ruffles his bow tie, and the guy says, "Bud, I got good news and bad news. I have 6 tickets for you, but it's going to cost $36, $6 a piece." My dad's like, "Well, I'm making $50 on the gig. I'll clear 14. We're going to see the Beatles." And I tell Ringo that, and he says, "What were you, 2?" I said, "No, I was 7. I was born in 59, so I was 6 when I saw the Beatles." So that's when I get to play, especially with Ringo or with David Lee Roth or so many of my really most fun gigs. It's just all about the passion and playing for people.
Yeah, that shows. And you can't fake that.
Yeah.
There's so many other things. I mean, just for one, but
you got to see the Beatles.
You got to see the Beatles, man.
I sat there 7 years old going, and we were in the nosebleed seats, but I'm going,
doesn't matter.
That's the 4 guys on my wall. Those are the Beatles, the cartoons. You remember the Beatles cartoons?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're probably all similar age, but I just sat there with those cartoons. There's the 4 of them. I'm in the same room with them. And I remember telling Ringo, when we played Detroit, we played the Fox Theater 5 years ago. And I said, "Ringo, you know, I saw you guys in 66 when I was 7. And it was 2 blocks from here at Olympia Hockey Arena." He says, "Is that where that was? Is that close? Let's go after the sound check. Let's go." And I said, "It's torn down now. It's a parking lot. In America, we destroy buildings of historical significance. It's not Rome, you know, and the, you know, Forum." Anyway, so I said, "It's torn down." He says, "Wow, that's where that was." And after the first song, he stopped the band and he says, "Well, I was talking to my friend on the other kit, and when he was 7, he was taken to see a band, and I was in that band."
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh," and all my friends from high school were there. And so I'll tend to go on tangents. I'm sorry, but
it's okay. Whatever.
We're like, we have FFB. I have FFB, which is fast fun brain.
I'm just ADD.
Yeah,
So
I'm probably both.
So it's like pinball brain. It's like, you know, we're there. We'll
You're
follow.
good. When you saw them at the hockey arena, were they literally in the center with nobody around them? Was that kind of like they did at some of the stadiums?
Exactly. This was an indoor arena. And if you look at the kind of the oval shaped arena that it was because of the hockey ice rink, I was sort of on the high, furthest seat looking out, and their stage was closer to that, where at the Staples Center, they'd have it curtained off, but there was no curtain. There were people behind there just watching them. And sometimes they would turn the stage around and play to the back. I think that was the first tour, Washington, D.C. You'll see Ringo moving his kit so he can play to those people.
Oh my God.
They didn't turn, I don't believe in the second tour, 66. I don't believe they turned the stage, but I was kind of looking at them on the other side of the oval, and it was just amazing.
Even so, hockey is king in Detroit, the smaller arena there. It's not the baseball stadium. So, like, how many did that stadium hold?
Yeah.
I mean, the arena hold.
Yeah, this arena, I would guess, was about the size of the Forum. What's that, like 23, 25?
No, I think it's like
18.
Yeah, 18.
Yeah, 18. There you
15,
go.
18, something
Whatever
like that.
the Forum holds, that was this size.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, it was so great.
You know, because my sister got to see them For some reason, she's older than me, so she got to do all those
For
great
some
things.
reason, she's older.
The Hollywood Bowl.
Let me explain.
No, we were living in Georgia. And so she had like a bunch of her friends, and one of the moms drove them to Memphis.
Wow.
To see him. And it's like, I can't believe you got to see the Beatles.
And they went to see Elvis that day. Ringo talks about that. He said each one of them, Paul, George, John, and Ringo, they all had different memories and they conflicted. They were also, wow, this is Elvis. And the one thing that they were the most taken back with, he had a controller to control his TV. They're like, I can't believe you got it. And he's
Was this when they were
clicker.
visiting in Hollywood or something
it's
like
when they went to Memphis. I
okay.
think. I think. Maybe it's when he had a Hollywood home. That's a good question. I thought it was Memphis when he had Graceland, but maybe it was a Hollywood house.
Yeah.
It probably was a Hollywood
Yeah,
house. He
I
probably
think-
had a Hollywood place. I don't know. I shouldn't talk out of
But
school.
that's just such great stuff. And how exciting for you. I mean, well, you're a professional for one thing. It's like
I'm a fan first of all.
Okay, so you see the Beatles, and then you're playing on stage with Ringo now. I mean, and you're playing drums. That's his instrument. I mean, what do you go through? What do you think? What do you feel?
For many, many years, I had that dream, that I did get to do something with George once. It was a Gary Wright video, and George was in the video. I didn't meet him there, but Ian Wallace, my friend who was a drummer with Dylan, was playing with Dylan. He passed away since, but he said, I want you to come to the show. And we got a couple of guests coming back to my dressing room to say hi, George and Ringo. And I said, could I bring a camera? He goes, don't be that guy. Just be there. Keep it all up here. Just be someone that's a friend, And so first George walks in and I'm just going, oh my gosh.
God.
This is George. And he says to Ian, he says, I hear Richie's here. Don't tell him I'm here. I want to surprise him. And then Ringo comes in and Ian's practicing on a pad. And Ringo says, Ian, I thought I told you not to practice backstage on a pad. Don't play until you get out on stage. Because Ringo never warms up. He never played on a kit unless he was playing with the Beatles or Rory Storm and the Hurricanes or the Eddie Clayton Skiffle Group. He didn't learn to play from taking lessons and practicing and warming up. He learned to play on the spot. He even told me, and this blew me away, about a year ago, he says, I never sat down on the kit just to play a beat or work out something. I said, never? He said, why would I? I just want to play with musicians, make music. And nobody does that anymore. And most kids are sitting in their room, copying YouTube, posting YouTube videos of them covering a band. They're not even playing with live people. I say, kids, you got to play with humans, with a heartbeat, a bass player, But anyway, so when I got the gig in what's called Ringo and the Roundheads, I didn't know this in English history, but they were the ones that they were kind of like a gang, and they beheaded King Charles, and they carried his head around on a platter to the town. And they had his King Charles Spaniel, and they knew, okay, we don't know about that head, but that's his Spaniel, the only dog allowed in the Buckingham Palace. So anyway, Ringo and the Roundheads, that was my brother and I, and we would do a lot of the promo shows, the Jay Leno's and the Conans and whatnot, Letterman, when Ringo would do an album. And he always plays drums on his own albums, but just playing with him in 2003. And then I remember him saying to me once in 2006, he said, I'd love to have you in the All-Star Band, but the premise says, you got to have a couple of top 10 hits that you sang. And I nudged him. I said, well, that'll never happen, and we laughed. And in 2008, man, I got this call. Just a lot of prayers, I went through a pretty brutal divorce and I was going, what am I going to do? I got my kids, thank God, but I don't want to go on these 2-year-long tours, Ringo tours for like 5 weeks at a time. And Ringo's manager the next morning calls and says, Gregg, Ringo said he's run out of drummers with top 10 hits. He wants you to play on this All-Star Band tour.
Wow. It's amazing.
2008, man. So here I am in the All-Star Band playing double drum. But see, Ringo just wants to have fun and have a blast up there. And I really like getting into the intricacies of, if it's Edgar Winter Frankenstein, how exactly does he end that? Is it ba 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 wow ba 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 blah 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 bow bow blah blah. All right. Bah, 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 bah. So I'll write all this stuff down on my notepad. And Ringo said, what are you writing down, brother? I said, I'm writing down the hits, because Edgar's Frankenstein's not like the album version. He's got a new live version, and the ending is crazy. And he says, well, you keep writing that stuff down and cue me, because I don't want to think about it. I just want to have fun. So he okayed me. I mean, I went to music school and got a music education degree. Yeah. I love to do drum seminars. I love to do recording sessions where you hear a song once, you chart it out. Some people aren't cool with you having some notes up there. He's cool with it, because I said, these guys, Rick Derringer, Edgar Winter, Wally Palmer, Richard Page, Todd Rundgren, Greg Raleigh, Steve Lukather, Hamish Stewart from the Average White Band. Now, Colin Hay, and all these guys, Graham Gouldman from 10cc, they all have different versions of these live songs. He says, you just keep writing down and cue me. He just wants to have fun. So I said, cue you. It's the biggest honor. You taught me how to play in a band. I put my headphones on with my LPs and learn how to play because of you. And then I'd go play with my dad's band, because he didn't really know how to play rock. He was a jazz, bossa nova, polka, that guy. He'd let me play on, Taking Care of Business, and Proud Mary, and we're going to do She Loves You. So I learned to play because of you. Cueing you? Are you kidding me? That's a huge honor.
Yeah.
There's a video that I think it's on your website where you're playing Frankenstein and Edgar Winter's up there. And it seemed like it went from, like it had a fake ending. And then it kind of all of a sudden, it just kicked back into gear again. And I don't know if it was that video, but it seemed like there was a video, and it might have just been the set list, but it seemed like on the drum was like a little yellow pad of paper. And it was like, wondering if those were notes, or maybe that was just the set list.
That was probably my notes. I mean, my set list is to the right, to my left, under my hi-hat. And then Jeff Jonas, the most amazing drum tech. And my dad was my drum tech for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
He moved out to LA with my mom, and he saw this guy with a van taking my drums, and he said, you got to hire this guy to take your drums to a recording session? I said, no, Dad, this is LA. You do an album for a band, or you do a commercial for Pampers, or, Pepsi, or you do a movie or TV show. That's in the budget. Cartage, they call it cartage. He says, what if I put the drums in those soft bags and put them in the back of the Lincoln Town Car? Your mom and I went to Capitol Records, set them up. We went out and had happy hour, picked them up 3 hours later. How much would I get? And this was like 1990. And I said, well, I think they get like $225. And sometimes there's 2 and 3 sessions a day. And he goes, I'd get $225 a pop. He goes, fire these guys. I'm starting Bud's cartage service. And he did.
In a Lincoln
town. And my friends would help him with the drums. The guys at Capitol, United Western, Henson, which used to be A&M. Bud, Lincoln Cartage, they called it. We'll help you. And he'd tell stories. One time I was doing a David Foster session at the record plant, and I was really nervous because I hadn't worked for him. He usually uses John Robinson, J.R. Robinson, but he couldn't make it. So I get this call, and I said, so Dad, record plant. Okay, so you're going to go, you're going to set up the drums, and I'll see you later for the pickup. And he's like, got it, I walk in, and there's my dad at the big board talking to Foster. I'm going, David Foster could be a tough cookie. This could be awkward. So I opened the door, and Foster's from Vancouver, Canada. And I opened the door. I go, Dad, hey, let's go get a coffee. And Foster looks back at me and goes, why don't you go get a coffee? I'm talking hockey with Bud. My dad paved the way.
Right? Wow, that's
and
so
my
awesome.
mom would run the Thomas Brothers map before there were iPhones.
Yeah.
Okay, make a left on Cahuenga.
Yeah, cool.
And now we're, so they were a team, man. So anyway, Jeff Jonas, my drum tech with Ringo, he built a little box where my cowbell would go so that I could have my file card notes there and nobody could see it. And there's a little light. So when you see the drums, like if you look at that picture of me playing the trumpet there, right below that tom-tom is the notepad. And I get to cue Ringo on so many songs. Like when Paul McCartney came out on Ringo's 70th at Radio City Music Hall, Ringo didn't have a clue Paul was going to be there. And he came out. We did a secret sound check. When Paul finally rushed out, Ringo was on the side of the stage with Barbara, and Yoko was there. Yoko didn't know what was going on. Barbara and her sister Marjorie, who was married to Joe Walsh, they knew. And Joe came out and played. And all of a sudden, Paul comes out, and I go, and I'm looking at Ringo, and he jumps up on the drum riser, and he looks at me like, how does this go? I played it live, right? I got you. And we're playing. And he's going boom, ba, boom, ba. And I said, well, it's boom, ba, boom, ba, 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 oh, ba, oh, boom. And so he's copping that. And then there's that drum break. 2, three. And so he goes, you take it. And we're literally not much further than this. He goes, you take it. And I go, come on, both of us. He goes, you take it. I go, come on. And we both just played it, right? He's leaning over to me going, how long have you known about this while we're playing? And there's Paul up there singing birthday.
My
Here's
God.
Ringo. The two living Beatles left.
And
I
you're
said,
playing?
And I'm playing.
Oh.
And I'm crying. And there's a photo over there I'll show you on the wall. And I go, about a month. And he goes, thanks. I was like, oh,
What an amazing experience.
Oh, God.
God,
What a great story. You're a great storyteller.
So you can actually say you played with the Beatles
yeah.
at this point.
Can't actually say that, but I played with two of them.
Yeah. Well, Yoko was there.
Yoko was there.
And you've met George, so, you know.
I never met John. No, that's the one.
Yeah.
Did you ever?
Never.
Nope.
No, I'm just.
Oh, boy.
Met
I
George.
never met George. You met him, I think, at
I
Rockline.
hung out with him for a little bit. That's the time he was passing the joint around. And we
Which
were
Mark?
sitting around. Mark
Felsite?
Felsite from
Great.
Yeah.
producer at Rockline. And
When Petty was there, I guess, or
no, Jeff Lynne.
yeah.
Man,
Yeah,
I remember
and-
working with Jeff Lynne. My brother and I both did ELO
Your brother
for
is
about a year.
Matt Bissonette,
Matt
who's
Bissonette.
a great bass player.
Great bass player.
Yeah, so-
we were in ELO for about 9 months, and we rehearsed for 2 months. We did a big show down at CBS. It's a DVD. If you just type in ELO Zoom tour, you'll see like 30 videos, all the hits. But 9/11 happened, and we didn't go on the road. But I remember thinking at the time, wow, Ringo played a couple songs on this album. And Ringo was just a dream for me then. That was 2001. And so getting to play with him, just crazy. But on Ringo's new album, I don't know if you know this, his new album called What's My Name, there's a song. Do you know about this? There's a song that John was playing piano in the Bahamas or wherever he was writing, and he was saying things like, this song would be good for Richie, for Ringo. And one of the songs, Grow Old With You, is on Ringo's album, and it's a John song. And Paul played bass, and Giles Martin, George Martin's son, did a string arrangement, very reminiscent of George. So it's kind of like a Beatle reunion track. It's a John
But John
song.
wrote it.
John wrote it.
And is there music that's recorded by him that's put into the
Unfortunately,
song?
they couldn't save that to get it on the track, but it's John's song, Grow Old With Me. It's called.
Wow.
It's great.
You've got so many amazing stories, for one thing, and we're going to go back and touch some of those. But I think what's really great about you is that you love drums so much that you know all sorts of genres.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you.
Like when I was like starting out in, radio school, it was like somebody said to me, it's broadcasting. Learn what that means. Learn everything that it encompasses. And you learning to read music, to write music, but I'm fascinated with the jazz stuff.
Rita, thank you. I got to be honest with you. That all comes from my parents, because Matt and Kathy and I will all tell you that every night, my parents were, I equate it to Ringo. We didn't have it as bad as he did. He lived in the dingle, the toughest part of Liverpool. They had to go outside to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
They had to go down this block to take a shower. And Liverpool was bombed out in the war. But we lived in Detroit. We had a really cool house. We were upper middle class, but we were working class. I mean, my dad played jazz drums in weddings and parties and stuff at night. But during the day, man, he got up at 4 a.m. and he had a Tasty Bread route. It's like the competitor was Wonder Bread, but Tasty Bread in the Midwest was its rival. So he'd get up at 4, go to the depot, load the bread in his truck, and go all around Detroit delivering to stores, to elementary schools, to hospitals, convalescent homes. And he was a people person. And I think that's where I get a lot of the people skills, is from my dad. My mom worked her butt off at an insurance company as a secretary, came home, made dinner, cleaned the house. I mean, I didn't even make my own bed, man. When I left for school in the morning, my mom zipped around that house, made all of our beds, did the dishes, went off to work, got home by 5, and just working class. That was instilled in us. You work. I'm a capitalist. I'm not one of these government handout, big government guys. I hate big government. I'm not going to go political, but I want to work. I want to play my drums. I want to get paid to play my drums. I don't want anybody telling me, like AB5, you can't be an independent contractor, can't be a journalist, you can't drive an Uber. I'm not going to go into that. But I play the drums. So I've recently started an LLC and an S Corp just because I want to go around that crap.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to play drums, man. That's what I do for a living. That's what I do for passion. And that's what I would do for fun, even if I wasn't doing this for a living. So that's the way I grew up. And my parents Kathy would tell you, my brother would tell you, every night after my mom, not to sound sexist, but we had the family where the dad worked his butt off and then came home and there better be dinner on the table. Well, my mom also worked her butt off and there was dinner on the table and she'd sit in on jazz vibes on the jazz gig. That's the definition of an incredible woman in my estimation. But every night during dinner, we'd listen to jazz. And every night after dinner, my dad said, Greg, come on in the living room. We'd sit down on the shag carpeting. He'd take album covers. We'd break out the brushes and we'd play jazz to Dave Brubeck. And I'd learn to play brushes sitting cross-legged on my dad while he'd have half a dozen beers and we'd have a blast.
What were you playing on?
Album covers.
Oh.
Well, you could take brushes, C-Dub, and you could play on a newspaper. That's how Elvin Jones used to teach. Take a newspaper, put it on the counter of a music store and show kids how to play. But then I got into college. I was going to go to Berklee School of Music. And my dad said, why do you want to go to Berklee? They don't offer anything but a performance degree. I said, yeah, I got to get a performance degree. And my mom said, you already perform. You're 17 years old. You and your brother are playing all over Detroit with all kinds of bands. You got your own. We were Chicago freaks, the band Chicago. And we were so into it. We had the three horns, guitar like Terry Kath. Everybody was exact instrumentation. We'd play every Chicago song and Beatles and Zeppelin and Aerosmith. And so they said, you already perform all over town. You don't need a degree to perform. Why don't you do what the sax player in my wedding band does? I said, Ernie? What does Ernie do? I thought he just played sax in your wedding band. No, Ernie locks the door at the high school at 2 and has weekends off and summers off. He can do cruise ship gigs in the Bahamas and play jazz, but he makes a really good living and has a pension and health insurance by being a high school band director. High school band director. They said, we know you're going to make it as a player. You want to move to LA. You want to be a session and touring drummer. People would say, you can't do both. If you leave town, you won't get sessions. If you do sessions and you can't leave those clients or you go on the road and people will take those clients. No, you can do both. Look at Steve Gadd, Vinnie Colaiuta, Jim Keltner, Hal Blaine. It can be done. So they said, but if you don't make it playing, what are you going to do? You love music. Why don't you teach? You love teaching. You teach in the basement. You can teach. You can have a pension. You're not going to get that very good pension in the music business. The AFM pension's okay, but it's dwindling, cutting it in half, I hear. Anyway, so I went to North Texas where I could get a music ed degree, really work on jazz, Afro-Cuban, Brazilian sambas, Jamaican reggae, country music. I'd never played a country train beat, but I put myself through college because my parents couldn't afford to. It was for 4 years of college, room and board and tuition, $10,000 total.
Jeez.
I took out a student loan. I paid it back playing country music.
Oh my God.
But I learned all these styles, and I don't claim to be the best at any style. But Reeds, dub, my thing is I want to be good at every style, because that's why people will hire you to record on their album, because you don't get a call from the union contractor. Hey, Reeds, we have a session at Capitol next Tuesday, and it's going to be kind of hip hop with a few reggae grooves, and they might have you play an Afro-Cuban thing, and there's a lot of reading, but bring your double bass drum pedal, because they might do a little old ELP stuff. They don't tell you anything.
Yeah.
You have to have a double pedal. You have to know how to play all those styles, and you have to read, or they won't call you again. So that's kind of sink or swim out here.
Nowadays, you really have to learn how to read music. You think
unless you want to be a one-trick pony. Okay. I've got a lot of one-trick pony pals who are my age who only learned to play rock. And maybe they were even in successful bands. But after a while, unless they wrote the songs, what happens to that money? The points on the record and everything else. You're trying to raise a family. Last time I checked what a mortgage was like in Westlake Village, it's pretty hard. You better get some good royalty checks going. If you only play rock and you can't read and you don't play different styles, and the thing about that is there's new styles happening every single year. Yeah. You better know how to play on a Billie Eilish song, even though it's computers. But the new Harry Styles album, there's a lot of drums on that. And you better know how to play with Harry Styles and do those different styles, or you're going to be a dinosaur.
How often do you practice?
I practice every day.
Every day.
Because I have to. Yeah. Because I don't want to be a dinosaur. Ringo's my guru, man. I'm not really guru, but he's my health, coach. He's going to be 80 July 7th.
Wow.
And he has ripped abs and cut arms. And every
Wow.
morning he's on that treadmill at the Ritz-Carlton or Four Seasons. We can get back to the hotel at midnight. He's there running on an incline at 9 a.m. And he doesn't eat sugar. He doesn't drink alcohol. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't smoke.
Doesn't eat meat.
Doesn't
Vegetarian.
eat meat. He's just super, super healthy. But more than anything, peace and love is not just a thing that seems like a facade. He lives peace and love, guys. He is at peace. He's not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. He's not stressing about, well, I was in the biggest band in the world and then we broke up. I mean, that'll lead to a lot of problems, mental problems, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? He doesn't stress about the past. He doesn't stress about the future. He lives in the now.
He's in the moment.
And if I can
And
live
present,
in the
and
the
present.
if I
Yes.
can live in the moment, if we all can be
Yes.
right here, right now, hanging out as friends, just talking about music and life, that's everything. And he's that guy. So I want to live to be 100 and die playing the drums, but I better keep up. I better practice, because there's a 21-year-old guy, just like I was, that moved here. Detroit, went to college in Texas, moved out here to take on LA. There's guys doing that every day. And if you're 60 and you're not keeping up, they won't call you.
What's your own fitness regime? Because I mean, you great health, great shape. And drumming itself is hard work.
A lot out of
I mean,
you.
there's unbelievable, but and you said like Ringo, he's out there doing jumping jacks, when leading the crowd along. So what is it that you do?
Okay, my two things are exercise bike in front of the TV watching the Dodgers.
Yeah,
Okay, I got,
Got your Dodger Spectrum. Yep.
68, 24/7 Dodgers. If we're playing in China, South America, I got my iPhone with the MLB app. I'm watching the Angels and the
Angels.
Dodgers. I got the Dodgers, all the teams on MLB. I am a baseball fanatic. I'm getting ready to go to Camelback Ranch for spring training.
Get out. Okay.
Just love it, right? So
Yeah.
that's my inspiration to get on the bike. I record games. I watch them. I've not missed a Dodger game, and there's 168 a year in the last 4 years. So that's my hour a day on the bike. And then I belong to a really cool gym down the street with a beautiful outdoor pool that's heated. And I do an hour in the pool doing laps. I don't take one of my best friends is the doctor for the Dodgers for 16 years, Dr. Luga Podesta. He helps Kershaw, Kevin Brown, all these pitchers, right? Don't take your arms out of the water, because that's like throwing a fastball. You want to keep your arms in the water, get more resistance, backstroke going this way. I don't do weights. I do the bike for aerobic and I do swimming for toning. And I got a lot of work to be in the best shape I can be. Ringo is miles ahead of anybody I know with fitness and health and the way he eats. He's like, well, you wouldn't put sugar in your Ferrari gas tank. Why would you put sugar in your body?
Yeah.
Because it causes cancer. It's bleached. Sugar is bleach, white bread. You don't drink bleach, you're going to get cancer. Anyway, don't get me started on that stuff.
No, that's great. I mean, it's like you said at the beginning, it's like tangent, and that's the way we operate and talk. CW, I feel like I'm taking the whole
No,
conversation.
not at all. But I wanted to kind of go off a little bit and tell us about your alter ego, Skippy Skuffelton.
Thank
Because
you.
I have to say, it's one of the greatest bands in the world. And I don't know if Skippy ever died, but please give us the story of
Skippy is
Skippy.
alive and well and sitting on the couch. with
Really?
me. Years ago, do you know the name Mark Cranny?
No.
Okay, Mark Cranny was from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, moved to L.A., got in Jethro Tull, played the greatest drumming album you could ever imagine, Gino Vanelli, Brother to Brother, with all these drum solos. I met him. We became great friends. We became roommates in Woodland Hills. We rented a house, and he passed away. He had really bad diabetes and all kinds of health problems. And anyway, he was at a NAMM show where we just saw each other, and these kids were walking up to him and, I saw the A Tour, I saw the Gino Vanelli, and he was so overwhelmed. He's like, man, I can't handle it anymore. Some guy from, Tuna Fish, Wyoming, my name is Skippy Skuffelton. I said, I don't remember you. And I said, Skippy Skuffelton, that's a funny name. So I'm rehearsing with Spinal Tap, and David St. Hubbins turns around and says, you need a great British name that, you can't just be your name, And so I said, what about Skippy Skuffelton? And Harry Shearer says, Sir Skippy Skuffelton. And Christopher Guest goes, I love that. So that became my name, Skippy Skuffelton. If you YouTube Spinal Tap Live Earth, which was Al Gore's global warming summit in 07.
Yeah.
Harry says, on drums, Skippy Skuffelton, pray for him, because all the drummers died.
Right. So I'm happy that you're still around. So how did that come about? I mean,
through my friend CJ Vanston. CJ, that's his nickname. His name is Jeffrey Vanston, but he used to play in an all-black band, and there was 2 Jeffreys, so he was Caucasian Jeffrey, CJ. So CJ is the musical director for Spinal Tap. He also does I get to play drums thanks to CJ on all Christopher Guest's movies, from Waiting for Guffman, Mighty Wind, Best in Show, For Your Consideration, Mascots. And CJ also does Harry Shearer's albums, Derek Small. So I get to play on those albums, and CJ is a genius. He's a great keyboard player, amazing orchestrator, producer. He produced the album before last for Toto, I think, too. He produces, and he got me that gig.
That's cool. And you were actually in there recording with them, right?
Well, what happened is that, you remember the Black album, the Spinal Tap Black?
Yes. How could we not?
Well, they were asked, maybe I'm speaking out of school, but this is just, I think, okay. But they were asked to do guitar player, rock band, or whatever it was. And they thought, well, why don't we just re-record that whole album and we'll put it out? So I got to play drums. Now, the album was cut, the Black album was cut with Rick Parnell, an English guy whose dad was a famous jazz drummer. And Rick is on, Tonight We're Gonna Rock You, Hellhole, all those, Stonehenge, all those songs, that album. But they re-recorded that album with the late, great Ed Cherney. He passed away. He was a great engineer, producer, and we did that down at the Village in Santa Monica. But we recorded that whole album, Jazz Rock Odyssey and everything. And I even got publishing on Jazz Rock Odyssey because it was an improv thing. So we recorded that whole album again, and it's called Back from the Dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Great stuff.
That's awesome. Well, actually, I'm going to work up to where I'm going to by asking you, who is Debbie the Bloop?
Debbie?
The Bloop.
The Bloop. I don't know.
So I think it's your latest album.
Warning, Will Robinson?
Right.
Yes.
You don't remember Debbie the Bloop on Lost in Space? It was the monkey with the little helmet, the chimpanzee.
Oh, my gosh. I forgot about the monkey with the little helmet. We did a lot of, Warning, Will Robinson. I played the song for Billy Mooney, and I said, do you feel bad that I called this album Warning, Will Robinson? He goes, no, I didn't get royalties on that show. None of us did. Do whatever you can with that. But Debbie the Bloop, thank you.
But that was an amazing album. And I didn't know about it, and I started listening to it, and I'm like, it's got great music.
It's all my brother.
Well, it's you.
I played drums and sang,
yeah.
but he told me what to play and told me what to sing.
Okay.
He's a genius.
But it's okay. So sound-wise, it sounds great. But I love that there's a second disc without any drum tracks. Right?
That was Matt's idea too. He said, "You do all these drum clinics around the world, and kids now, as we spoke about, want to post on YouTube. What if you do a version without the drums, and then they can play and post on YouTube?"
Yeah. So
that's
genius.
Thanks for knowing that.
And is that your latest album?
That's the latest
latest
solo album.
Yeah.
The first one was just a self-titled album, and the second one was called Submarine.
Right.
And it's all Matt. He writes all the songs. He's just one of those guys that can drive in a car. God gives him a song. He's got perfect pitch. He'll get there and he'll sing all the parts, tell everybody what key it's in, sing my drum parts, tell me the lyrics, record it. He's that guy. So, and he produces and writes for other people, and he's a musical genius. He's my musical hero. So all those albums, Warning, Will Robinson, Submarine, the self-titled one, those are all just his songs, and he splits them with me. How about that? He goes,
wow.
We'll say we wrote them together. We will? Yeah.
That's cool.
Is he older, brother?
He's 2 years younger.
Okay.
He's been with Elton now for 8 years. They're down in Australia. Elton said, you can either stay down here for Christmas or we'll fly you home and then fly you back. And the fires are so brutal. There are 1 billion animals have died already. And I said, I want to go home to my family for Christmas. So he flew home for 2 weeks and he's back down there again. I don't think they're even home till middle of March or something. But this tour is ongoing.
Still going.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's great.
One of the other artists that you had the opportunity to see that I never did and probably didn't appreciate, till after Neil Peart did that album, Buddy Rich album. But you saw Buddy Rich several times in concert.
A lot. Yeah. Well, when I was with Maynard Ferguson, we used to open up and close. Buddy never wanted to open up. So Maynard and Buddy would flip a coin. And one night Buddy would open up and then he'd end with his 2 hottest songs and then Maynard would play. The next night Maynard would play first and Buddy would. But I kind of got to know him and I got to know his daughter, Kathy Rich. And then Neil Peart, who was a good friend of mine, and we were jamming double drums here and riding on Westlake Lake and looking around. We went to Quiznos, got a couple subs, went to Westlake Lake, and every bird that would land and every duck in the water, he knew the name, you know. And so one time I said, what do you feel like playing today, Neil? And he said, let's work on 3/4, like jazz stuff. I said, like waltzes? So we just played jazz waltzes all day. I played a little trumpet bluesette, ba, 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 bluesette. And we just played 3/4. He was always wanting to learn, always wanted to grow. But Buddy's daughter, Kathy Rich, and Neil worked together. Rush being with Atlantic, he got a deal with Atlantic Records, Burning for Buddy. And the videos had already been done with DCI Hudson Music. So he got a lot of the people that did those videos and a lot of other people to go to New York to the power station and record. And that's where we hung a lot there too. Super fun. Yeah. Buddy Rich, watching him as a kid before I ever met him, it was a big deal. My dad would come home and he got up at 4, did his bread route from like 5 to 2, would go to the bar. That was his therapy. I tell my friends, my dad had therapy 5 days a week. 5 days a week, yeah, for usually an hour or 2. And the guys would sit around and each buy a round and they'd complain about their, wife and kids and bills and politics and life. And then they'd go home and everything would be okay. Now you got to pay, $200 an hour for that stuff. But anyway, beers were cheap. Yeah. So he'd come home and he'd go, okay, honey, you got the kids ready? They're ready. We'd get in the station wagon and we'd pile to the Michigan State Fair and watch Buddy Rich. Oh, wow. And then all the big bands were traveling. Buddy Rich, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Woody Herman, Stan Kenton, Maynard Ferguson, Don Imus. Every month there'd be bands coming through town and you'd see them and you'd sit there at a high school theater. I saw them all.
Wow.
Man.
And that's why I'm so passionate about different styles.
Yeah.
Well, you got to play with Buddy Rich's band too, right?
The last band he had when he passed was kind of reassembled
after he passed, right?
After he passed in 84. Back in like 89, they reassembled that group of musicians and we did 2 concerts. We did one in New York, which wasn't filmed, and one at the Wiltern, which was filmed. And that's what you can see on YouTube, DVD. I played with Louis Bellson and Dennis Chambers, and then Steve Gadd, Vinnie Colaiuta, and Dave Weckel did a trio, and we all played with the band. And then a lot of other drummers did it later. But yeah, I got to play with that band. But when my dream, besides, I never dreamed you could play with Ringo, or Paul sitting in. But my dream was to play in Maynard Ferguson's band. And that was a lot of prayer too. And then it was like, well, God, I've already played with Maynard. I don't want to be dubbed as just a jazz guy. I want to rock gig like Journey, Van Halen, or Genesis. Well, Phil Collins is drummer in Genesis with Chester Thompson. Steve Smith, one of my best friends, was the drummer in Journey. Mm-hmm. Dave quits Van Halen, starts his own band with Steve Vai and Billy Sheehan, and I get the gig. And then we're recording at Berkeley, California. Steve Perry knocks on the door, and Dave's at the hotel room still. And he goes, hey, that was a cool version of Tobacco Road. I said, oh, thanks. He goes, you should think about being in Journey. We fired Steve Smith. I said, you fired Steve Smith? He said, yeah, we're in the next drum. We're auditioning drummers. You should. I go, I'm in Dave's band. He goes, well, you could be in Journey. I said, but I'm in Dave's band. Thanks, but no thanks. So talk about prayers being answered. That's 2 out of 3.
Abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything all at once.
And you got into Dave's band because you knew everything, like you said earlier, right? You knew it was double bass is what got you in there.
That's right. Well, the audition, check this out. I was playing Myron Grombacher, who I'm sure you guys know the name, Pat Benatar's drummer for years, Rick Derringer, Lita Ford's drummer. He said, hey, man, Vinnie Vincent from Kiss is looking for a drummer. He's going to start this Vinnie Vincent invasion. I said, Vinnie Vincent invasion? Really? Yeah, go audition. So I go audition, and Vinnie says, you sound great, man, but, not as great as I'm looking for. I already found a guy, and he's really into it. He's driving here in a Winnebago. He's already learned all my songs. Learned all your songs? All there is this demo tape. Anyway, he's going to be in the band Bobby Rock. He was in Vinnie Vincent's Invasion with Dina Strum. Anyway, he goes, but you'd be good for Dave Roth. I said, who's Dave Roth? He said, David Lee Roth. I said, David Lee Roth's in Van Halen. He goes, not anymore. He isn't. He just quit. And he got Billy Sheehan because Tallis used to open up for Van Halen, and he knew Edward really liked Billy. He got Billy and they just got Steve Vai. I said, Steve Vai from Zappa's band? He goes, call Steve Vai right now. And I call, and Steve Vai's sister Pam answers. I said, hi, Vinnie Vincent told me to call Steve about the audition with David Lee Roth. It was in the LA Weekly, the Recycler, as Steve Vai looking for a drummer. And all these people, hundreds of people flocked to SIR on Sunset. And I go there and there's a line down the block, but I knew it was for David Lee Roth, right? So I'm in line. Matt Sorum walks out, and I knew Matt because my brother Matt and Matt were in E.G. Daly's band, Pee Wee Herman's Dottie Biddle girlfriend in The Big Adventure. And she used to play at Sash. Remember Sash on Ventura and Tahunga? And I said, Matt. He goes, hey, man, it didn't go too well. They had me play double bass, and I don't play double bass. I'm going, get the feet going. Another guy that I went to college with, Russ Mckinnon, he comes out. He said, Russ, how'd it go? He said, they said I didn't hit hard enough. I'm going, hit hard, hit. And I had Mark Cranny, the drummer from Gino Vanelli, and Jethro Tull, the drummer that I was telling you about with Skippy Skuffelton. He loaned me his snare drum, and I had a white-coated head, and I had the drummer's best friend, a Sharpie. The next guy came out and said, Steve Vai was throwing all these weird rhythms at me, and I could write them on this drum head.
Oh.
So the first thing I do, I walk in the room, and they said, hey, man, and I was not thinking about it, but I guess later they said, your people skills were good. I said, Billy Sheehan, man, your band Talus is killing. He goes, thanks. We hit it off. I said, Steve Vai, man, I saw you with Zappa. I saw your gig at Club Lingerie with your band with Tommy Mars. He goes, you did? I said, I love you guys. All of a sudden, really? Because a lot of the other guys were just, So then they said, play a solo. So I took the other bass drum and put it there. He plays double bass. So the first thing I played was Hot for Teacher because I love Alex Van Halen. Wow. And he ripped Hot for Teacher from Billy Cobb. I'm a jazz drummer. It's the same beat. So I play that and they go, wow, okay. Now Steve goes, here's a bunch of weird rhythms. So I'm writing them down. He goes, wait a minute. You can write out and transcribe rhythms? Where'd you learn that? I said, well, I went to North Texas. He said, I went to Berkeley. I said, I know you went to Berkeley. I know everything about you. He goes, man, you can write that stuff down. We're telling Dave, you're the guy. Yeah. So the next day I went to Dave's house in Pasadena. But before I did, I went up to Steve's house in Sylmar. I said, do you have any demo tapes of songs you guys have? He goes, yeah, here's a cassette, like 10 songs. So I charted them all out.
Wow.
So Dave's cruising around upstairs, listening to us play, and he comes down, he goes, Diamond, David Lee Roth. How did you learn all these songs? The guys just discovered you yesterday. What am I, like Christopher Columbus here? Discovered me. Okay, well, I said, well, Steve gave me this tape, and I made charts. You read music, bro? Yeah, I do. Who was your last gig? And I thought, man, I'm dead in the water. He's going to label me as a jazz big band guy. And Dave's a smart cookie. Yeah. I said, Maynard Ferguson. He goes, the high note specialist that could play double, triple high C's that covered Herbie Hancock's Chameleon and did theme from Rocky? Yeah, that guy. He goes, if you can power that 18-piece big band, you can power the four of us. Welcome to the band. Payday starts Friday. Let's go get some Mexican food in downtown Old Pasadena. And that was it.
Wow.
Because it's crazy. I got all these stories. But
it's great.
Awesome.
And the thing is, you know how to tell them, and you're, wonderful with sharing them.
Thank you, Reeds.
That's just that's
Thanks
great
for doing
stuff.
your research, guys.
Oh, we have more.
Yeah.
Who would you consider your favorite drummer? I mean, you've talked a lot about some of the jazz greats, but why don't you talk about some of your favorite drummers and who do you like these days that impresses you?
That's great. Well, my all-time favorite would be Ringo because he's my favorite song drummer. He taught me how to play songs, how to play in a band. But then my other hero growing up was Buddy Rich. Nobody could ever do what Buddy Rich did. But the Buddy Rich of today is a guy that you might not know. You'd know the people he's played with. But if I say the name Vinnie Colaiuta, do you know who it is? He was in Zappa's band with Steve Vai. He played for years and still does with Sting, with Herbie Hancock. In 1 week, he did a Faith Hill album in Nashville and a Megadeth album.
Oh, my God.
Week. He could play anything. He's one of my best friends. It was his birthday yesterday, and we've been texting and talking. But Vinnie Colaiuta is the Buddy Rich of today. There's nobody that's alive that can do what he does and has the passion he does and practices as much as he does. He's just always perusing for new stuff, coming up with new stuff. He invented so many things that we do nowadays.
Like,
for instance, when he plays with Herbie Hancock, there's a song where there's a drum solo over a vamp, and a vamp meaning bop, 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 solo, pop, 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 bop, bop, solos. And he could go for 10 minutes and never repeat himself because his vocabulary, his drumming vocabulary is so phenomenal and it's growing every day by leaps and bounds. He has more ideas and more creativity and more with his four limbs than anybody on the planet. But now he's doing podcasts, but it's not behind the drums. He doesn't teach, but I love trying to learn what he does on albums. And if you just type in YouTube, Vinnie Colaiuta licks are what drummers call beats and fills. You'll just see thousands of drummers from all around the world trying to play what he plays. So you can watch now on YouTube. It's the beauty of YouTube and the Drum Channel and all these great sites that just have lessons. You can watch and stop and fast forward and rewind in slow motion. Buddy Rich playing West Side Story. But anyway, so you can get so much from YouTube, from Drum Channel. I have a drum school at Drum Channel, but there's also so many great lessons from drumchannel.com that kids, not just kids, 100-year-old drummers can learn. So there's so much at our fingertips now. You know, private lessons are great. I take a lot of private lessons. I work with Afro-Cuban specialists, gospel chop specialists, blast beat specialists, metal specialists. I got one guy that's teaching me to play like Thomas Haka. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Have you ever heard of a metal band from Sweden called Meshuggah? They're the top, like, super serious musicians. It's all that Cookie Monster stuff, which I don't like. I'm not a Cookie Monster guy, man. I want people that can sing.
Yeah.
So I blur out the vocals like I blur out super explicit hip hop. I got to learn how to play hip hop drums like Questlove, like Chris Dave, like all these specialists. But I'm just not about, killing people and, heavy drug stuff. I'm just like, I'm this guy that's, this kind of not into that stuff. So anyway, I got to learn the drumming though, or I'll be a dinosaur. But you can learn so much from the internet. But anyway, Vinnie Colaiuta is the guy.
Electric drums. What are your thoughts on that?
I use electronic drums called Roland. I think they're the best. I endorse them. I do seminars around the world on them. And you can use them on tour. You can supplement on tour. You can do recording sessions. I have a kit over there in my living room, and you can practice at 3 a.m. and put headphones on and be jamming with your iTunes, and nobody will hear you. When we did the Ringo tour right there, that exact photo is Ringo and I looking at Billy Squier trying to tell us what his new version of the stroke is going to be. And Ringo goes, "Billy, I might as well play Little Help from My Friends like a waltz. No one's going to remember this version." Yeah. And there's that part where it's boom, stroke, put your right foot out. And so Ringo's been practicing this. And Billy goes, "Oh, that's good, Ringo, but Greg's got this Roland pad over there."
Oh, jeez.
And he sampled the... And Ringo says, "Sample the pad." And I'm going, "Billy, please. No, man, this is Ringo. You got a guy, my hero, you're a hero, ready to play."
He hired you, Billy.
He hired you. And Ringo's rule has always been whoever is playing their song can be the musical director of that song. And look at his face right here. He's going, "I'll do whatever you want, Billy. Whatever you don't want, just tell me."
Or he's thinking how he's going to kill him.
Exactly. So
peace and love, peace and love.
Peace and love, peace and love.
He's just repeating it in his head.
So anyway, I hit this pad and it goes, "Bushka, bushka." So I said, "Why don't you do that too, Ringo?" So he's doing, we're doing it together. But then there's that one part, stroke. So Billy goes, "Greg," and I go, "Sorry, Ringo." I hit another pad, stroke. He goes, "Sounds like a bunch of chickens." So I incorporated it, and you can see it on my left. I get to go all over the world and do clinics and concerts, and kids come up with like David Lee Roth albums, Joe Satriani albums, ELO, Ringo. They've seen clinics, they've seen concerts, and now YouTube's made it so international. I was in China 10 years ago doing a clinic, and I said, "Okay, we have a free snare drum. There's like 1,000 drummers out there. To whoever can tell me who Buddy Rich is." And nobody raised their hand. Whoa. Drummers, right? 'Cause it's set off, it's a whole different.
Yeah.
If you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you ain't gonna know Buddy Rich anyhow. So these guys are just like, and one older guy kind of, I said, "Yes, sir, yes, sir." He goes, "Buddy Rich," I can't do Chinese, but Buddy Rich, jazz drummer, come on up, you win the snare drum. Now you go there, and they're playing. They're great at copying things. They're not amazing. It's kind of like Japan. I hate to say it, but American ingenuity and jazz started in New Orleans, and things that are happening creatively, like the auto industry. Well, Japan can make them better, but they're copying. Well, they can copy a lot over in Japan, and they can copy a lot in China. But the way the world of drumming is, and even though acoustic drum sales and guitar sales and bass sales are down now in America because kids are playing Call of Duty in their mom's basement all day long, they're not taking lessons. In China, they're selling a lot of drums and guitars and basses, and they're playing with each other. They have schools now. So it's kind of growing.
Since you've traveled all over the world, I always wonder what it's like touring with the Beatles or touring with David Lee Roth or ELO or whoever. What parts of the world really surprise you as far as like audience enthusiasm that you think is only here in America?
What a great question. My most passionate place to play so far is when Jeff Porcaro passed away from Toto, and then Simon Phillips took his place, and then Simon hurt his back, so I subbed on a Toto tour in '95 in Europe. Toto is huge in Europe. I mean, they'll play the Canyon in America, the Canyon Club here or something like that, the Saban, whatever. They'll play the Staples Center for multiple nights version in Europe. So we're playing in France, and I charted out some Jeff Porcaro fills, special fills that weren't on albums. And the people jumped, and the people were so passionate, and they were screaming, they were crying. I'd have to say Paris. As much as I'm French and not a big fan of Paris,
but Paris
and the attitude, the French don't like the French. I'll tell you, man, the fans were off the hook.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's great stuff.
All right. We got the bonus round.
Please.
This is Fast and Furious. Quick questions. Take as long as you want. There's a prize.
Okay.
And
if you win.
If you win.
If you win.
But there's no judgment because we don't know the true answers.
Okay.
If you're telling us the truth.
Okay.
What was the first concert you went to?
First concert I ever went to was the Count Basie Band in 1965, right before the second concert I went to in 66, which was the Beatles.
Wow.
Wow. That's great. Who would you want to meet you've never met? Music or not?
Living or dead?
You can make up the rules like we make them up for this game. You can do one of each.
Or you could say John, and then you've met all the Beatles, So.
That's right, John.
Yeah.
I'd say this is a tough one. Living or dead, and I'm going to say right now 3. I'm going to say Jesus, Jimi Hendrix, and John Lennon.
Wow.
Those are my 3.
3 J's.
Wow.
Triple
3
J.
Triple J.
Triple J.
I don't know what that means, but it's good.
JJ Jackson.
If you were making a documentary film, what rock subject would it be on?
A rockumentary film or
Sure.
a documentary?
Well, rockumentary is usually kind of sarcastic,
Yeah,
right?
like Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
So documentary film on
anything you want.
in the rock genre,
Yeah.
a documentary.
Yeah. Again, you can help make up the questions.
Yeah. I would have to say the inner workings of the people skills. Drummers, I think, often are on the riser, and we're up here looking at people. How are they interacting? What's this new member of the All-Star Band that's a very famous person going to say to Ringo the first time he meets him? I'm, Rick Derringer. I know, I hired you. Well, I'm going to do Hang On Sloopy and Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. I know, it's why I picked you. Well, funny thing is, I was at my mom's house in Dayton, Ohio yesterday, and lo and behold, I went up in the attic and there was a cash box, and number 2 with a bullet was Hang On Sloopy. Number 1 with an arrow going down was Yesterday. Ringo says, I didn't play on either one of them. So I'd like to, from a drum riser perspective, the people skills going on in rock bands, because it's all great, and there's all these tensions, and there's all these, but you can really go deep in that subject, because it's all about people skills. I don't care what anybody tells you. When I do a clinic, I tell kids about playing in a band. You take that pie, you split it in half. This whole side is, how do you play the drums? How do you play your guitar? How do you sing? The other half has nothing to do with your skills. It's how do you relate to people? Do people want to hang around you on a tour bus that turns into a vacuum-packed submarine really quick? Or are you a pant load that they want to kick you off because you're just bringing the vibe down? Be a light in the room. Lift people up. Compliment people. I tell young musicians, try complimenting people because they want to be complimented. There are things you can find about anybody, and you can lift them up. Steve Lukather, last tour, I'm saying, Steve, on the limo back to the plane, the Ringo private plane, we call it Air Ringo. I said, on that Richard Page song, when you do the whammy bar, it sounds like a pedal steel. I got you so loud in my ears, my in-ears. That's the best solo you play all night. Really, bro? That one?
Wow.
Yeah, that one. I said it brings me goosebumps.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need compliments. He knows how great he is, but he's like, really?
But sometimes people think that they just know it, and that everybody tells them that.
And we're all insecure deep down. We all need to have some. But I said, that's people skills. That's the other half of the pie.
You can teach being technical and all that kind of stuff, but you can't teach the passion. And that's where you come in. I mean, you're passionate about whatever. If you were a car salesman, if you were a preacher, you'd be passionate about it, and that's.
Well, you guys are too.
That's what makes you unique. More questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple more here. What new band can you recommend?
New band.
What are you listening to that's new?
Yeah, well, I also have a 21-year-old son and a 18-year-old, almost 19-year-old daughter. So I get in the car, since they were little. I remember one was 9 and one was 6. And, Eminem would come on with all the expletives and all that. I was just so burnt on Eminem. And I said, Noah, I got to take a break from Eminem. I'm kind of Eminem'd out. And he goes, that's cool, Dad. I've been Beatled out since I was born. But I said, okay, put Eminem back up. So, with my daughter, I'm way into Billie Eilish and Harry Styles. And I'm way into, she's a vocal major in college. I'm way into the Sarah Vaughan things and the classical things. I've never been a classical fan. I don't go to the opera. I don't like opera, but I love opera when my daughter sings it because it's my daughter, and her voice is like an angel. So I like more opera as long as you're singing it. My son's favorite band of all time is the Arctic Monkeys, and even though they're not a new band, I know the Arctic Monkeys because my son can play those songs on drums. He also DJs, and but he's really into super, dance and hip hop and everything that, I would not normally listen to because I'm taking lessons. I'm listening to a lot of Meshuggah. I'm listening to a lot of Envy on the Coast, a lot of Animals as Leaders, a lot of things that people get me into because of the drumming, but then I'm into it because of the music. I'm into this guy named Bill Stewart, who you might not know, but he's taken New York City by storm. He's this killing drummer from like Iowa or something, but he plays jazz drums like Tony Williams, who was my teacher for a long time before he passed away at 53 or 57 years old. He was he was Miles Davis's drummer when he was 17.
Wow.
And so he's the new Tony Williams of today. So I listen to everything. I listen to a Cuban band called N.G. La Banda. They say, N.G. La Banda. They all talk so fast. What? That's the Cuban way, the Havana way. But I listen to that band a lot because I'm just trying to push myself and grow and try to not exclude Cookie Monster metal because I don't like the vocals or super hip-hoppy, stuff because I got to learn the drums.
Yeah. And last one. Do you have a special Spinal Tap moment other than playing for Spinal Tap, but something in your career that you would consider a special Spinal Tap moment?
I do. And I think this goes to, we had already played Glastonbury. That's another thing you can YouTube. I've been working with them, I think, since around 98. We played a show at the NAMM show once, and the chandelier was so loud, the chandelier came undone. It was like dangling. We were very loud. Britain's loudest band, right? So, we're playing after we did Live Earth, 80,000 people. The show started with Genesis, first book of the Bible, first band at Live Earth, Phil Collins. And he looks around and there's Dave Grohl, Taylor Hawkins, Chad Smith. We're all like, and he goes, what is this, a drum clinic? And we all went, yeah. So Genesis, Metallica, Madonna, Spinal Tap, everybody came out to watch Spinal Tap. 18 bass players, even the great tech guy from Northern Cal who just passed away. He was a bass player. Paul Allen. Was Paul Allen? Bruce Allen? Paul
Allen's the guy from Microsoft, not Microsoft.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Okay.
He was a bass player.
Ah.
And we just played a big surprise birthday party for him. He had already passed away, but they planned the thing. And Ringo's band was a surprise guest in the Shanghai Harbor. 200 of his closest friends had been touring around the Shanghai Harbor on this great boat, and we were the surprise guests, right? But he wasn't there, of course, because he'd passed away. But anyway, so my favorite Spinal Tap moment, we'd done the Live Earth thing at Wembley, but then we played the Greek. So my dad, Lincoln Cartage, takes my drums
to the Greek.
And I'd already showed him Spinal. We went to see Spinal Tap years ago. And I think Russ Kunkel was sitting in, and I go, Dad, you got to check this band out, Spinal Tap. And my dad's listening to it. People are freaking out and laughing. And my dad goes, they're good, but they're not like great. I go, well, it's not supposed to be, like Rush or something.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be these. So I said, it's comedy, get into it. So my dad gets into it and he learns the Skippy Skuffelton thing. So we finish sound check and my dad goes up to Derek Smalls, and says, Harry, I said, Dad, you got to call him Derek, where it's, they're in makeup,
Yeah.
He goes, Derek, he says, I got to tell you. And my dad's probably 70 years old. And he goes, I got to tell you, I'm a little worried about my son, Gregg, because these drummers, gardening accidents, choking on someone else's vomit, spontaneously combusting. And Harry, God bless him, he looks around, he looks out there, sound check, just 20 people. And he goes, Bud, it's going to be okay. We've got the place secured. I will never forget that. The fact that he was so cool to my dad.
I love that. That's great.
That's beautiful.
That's
beautiful. Well, congratulations. You win.
I win.
You win a prize.
What does he
do
win?
I
It is an
win?
unused, which means it's brand new.
Uh-huh.
Eat 'em and Smile, David Lee Roth After Show Pass.
Where in
I know.
the world
I know.
did you find
I know.
this?
It's for you. Because
What
you
a
probably
gift.
you probably had a laminate and you never had one of these because you didn't need it.
I saw a lot of these.
You probably did.
And I'll tell you a little story off the mic about these.
Okay. You sure you don't want to tell on the mic?
I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
Very sure.
How cute was she?
Thank you. This is an amazing gift.
Well, you
This
won it
is-
fair and square.
Yeah.
You got all the questions correct. So,
But thank you so much
yeah.
for just being you.
Oh, thank you,
Okay,
Reeds.
just being the person that you are,
Thank you.
because it's just so wonderful just to be around your energy and your light. And, we need more people like that to make this a better place. This world right now is kind of down. People are
You
down.
made my week, my
You
year
know,
by saying that.
But
Thank you.
that's who you are. And what about upcoming projects?
Yeah, well,
the Ringo
You got
Show.
Ringo shows
yeah,
coming up.
Ringo, we're doing a tour in May, and it's going to be mostly East Coast. That's going to be a blast, 5 weeks. Before then, I'm doing some work with Bass Extremes. Have you heard of that group? Victor Wooten, great bass player. Steve Bailey, great bass player. 28 years ago, we did the best-selling of all-time instructional bass video that became a DVD, and we just played Yoshi's in Oakland. We played in Phoenix at the Musical Instrument Museum. We played in Houston, then another show up by Folsom Prison. We're going to go on some tours with those guys. There's just 3 of us. And then I'm also doing a tour, the band Yes.
Yes.
Having Close to the Edge. They're having a close Cruise to the Edge prog rock tour, and it's King's X, one of my favorite bands, and Simon Phillips' band, and I'm playing in a band called Nerve Bundle with Steve Lukather, Jeff Babko, and Jörgen Carlson from Sweden, and then we're doing Billboard Live in Japan for 2 weeks, and that's all before the Ringo tour happens. So
Wow.
Oh, my
that's
God.
going to be
That's
super
quick.
fun.
Coming up quick.
Yeah.
Coming up quick.
You've just been fabulous. You've been one of the best we've ever had. So thank
Really?
you. Absolutely.
Reed,
Absolutely.
Doug,
Thank you.
Yeah.
you
thank
guys
you.
are so
Biss.
prepared. Thank you.
Biss. The Biss.
The
The
Biss.
Biss,
The Biss.
the Rich, and the Dub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
And peace and love.
Peace and love,
man.
yes.
It's not just a saying, it's the way he lives.
Yeah.
Peace
He
and love.
loves everybody.
All of us should.
Yeah, whether you disagree or agree with people or whether they're like you or unlike you in any way, we all have to love each other.
Yeah.
We're commanded to love
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
And you don't have to agree with everybody. You just have to love everybody.
Yep.
It's a hard thing to do.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Reeds, how was that?
I just love Gregg. I just love being around his being. You can tell that he is around Ringo a lot, the peace and love. That's something that they really believe in. And I
Yeah.
left that interview feeling energized.
Yeah.
You
He's
know,
a really down-to-earth guy. And
what a great father.
God, yeah, taking care of his 2 kids, and he just keeps going. He's got his things on Drum Channel, his classes on Drum Channel, and he does a lot of studio stuff, which we didn't even get into all the fine details of the studio stuff that he's doing. So, Check him out on tour. I know he talked about some project and the Ringo tour being one of them, which has been believe postponed till 2021.
Everything's been postponed.
Yeah,
I don't know, pushback. So you have to check.
Check his website. Check his Facebook.
You can follow Gregg on Instagram at Gregg with 2 G's, Gregg Drums, or on Facebook at Gregg Bissonette.
You can also take drum classes with or / from Gregg at drumchannel.com. And check out our show notes under each show title on our website, rockandrollconfessional.rocks. There you'll find links to videos and other subjects that we had talked about or brought up in today's show. There's a lot of fine details there and links and videos of things that Gregg's worked on. So we got some really great shows coming up in the future, so stick with us. And please check out our website at rockandrollconfessional.rocks. And like us, share us, follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. What else? What are you going to leave us with today, Reeds?
I'm going to leave you with nothing. And you'll like it.
And I'll like it?
And you'll like it.
All right.
No. It's all good. Stay safe, people. Keep your distance. Wash your hands. You know all this stuff. And you can't be bored by listening to all these episodes. You can go back. We have several of them on the website. Go back and listen to them because we know you have the time now.
Yeah. So keep rocking, everybody. And we'll see you soon.
Be safe.